disrupted all that. So that's what I got from the film as well. Yeah. And then from our group is what I said.
Good call out. Thank you, Cherie. Tanaya?
From talking with my group members about this film, it just brought us, I think we're all had kind of the same consensus that like we're tired of seeing these films strictly of Black trauma. And then LJ, I believe, excuse me, I don't usually direct people with their first name, so I don't know their last name. When he was talking about, the exhibit for Egypt, it's kind of like things like that. Like it's a problem nowadays. This term gatekeep, is a big thing in social media on TikTok. And whenever someone from a particular culture wants to have a closed practice or a closed tradition, you have other people getting offended. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, all the artifacts in the world that have been stolen, and you're mad because they want to keep this one sacred. You're mad because this one tradition you don't get to have an inside look in. It's just not your business. I just feel like, people need to understand that it's not someone else's job to make you comfortable or to appease you when it's talking about their culture and their traditions and their lifestyle. My lifestyle, how I live my life, I don't care if it makes somebody else comfortable. That's not their business. As long as I'm not physically hurting somebody or putting someone else in harm's way, then it's really not anyone else's concern. And that includes practices. So, for this film, for films like this, it's all infuriating because you don't want to see, like, it gets tiring to see Black history only limited down to enslavement, and it's always gruesome in the films. It's always viciously predicted. Not that it's, inaccurate. That's what happened, but why is the level of, the extreme they're willing to go to show how bad it was? Why, when they're showcasing Black excellence, they're not willing to go to those extremes? When we have Black superheroes, or we have Black movies of super geniuses, why is it minimal? Why do they still require, a sidekick? They still require their whole team's help. They still have to malfunction. Their intelligence can't just be great on its own. I just feel like, it's frustrating. Um, that's like, I forget her name. Taraji P. Henson starred in the movie, and in the film, I remember watching a video after saying like the white man that they had in the movie taking down the signs for the bathrooms, that's white savior. Yeah. He wasn't somebody who really was there. That's the one they put in the movie. And it's called a white savior that they put in a lot of movies to help this Black character, navigate through their journey. They don't want to show the extent of the trials that Black people have to go through. In actuality, that man realistically was probably just as terrible to her, if not more, because he was like a head executive than other people. Yes, Hidden Figures. I'm sorry, I forgot the name of it, but I just remember watching that movie, watching movies like that, and saying like, why are you trying to, it still goes back to white fragility and making white people seem like innocent and, and these great positive figures. We talk about this in my Pan-African Studies psychology course. It's just, still wanting to vilify or make less than of Black people. Because what you're saying is we need these white saviors to complete our journeys. We can't complete it on our own. Well, that's putting us less than, whether you want to pay attention to it or not. I mean, that's just what it is. And it's frustrating to see. We gotta, have more Black filmmakers and more Black intellectuals taking heed in the aspect of these films, because when it's white people trying to showcase Black excellence, is always skewed to include, white excellence.
That makes me think of a couple of things. One is the series on HBO, Insecure. Issa Rae is the show developer. She came up with the show on her own. And it took 2 to 3 years for it to go from the writing room to actual production because they kept trying to force her to include white characters. And she just refused to do so. No, I'm sorry, it kept forcing her to include white writers into her writing room, and she would not allow them to do so, which prolonged the film. And she had to concede to incorporating white characters, which is like the her homegirl that works with her in the nonprofit. That's how she got her role into the film. But I want to kind of pick up really the tension that LJ, Cherie, and Tanaya is kind of speaking to under this genre of film, what I call trauma porn film, right? And this idea of just displaying these really gruesome, horrific images of Black bodies being disembodied and beaten just for the sake of one, for nostalgia for certain groups, right? And then two, this idea of placism, being nostalgic of a time when African people were in their place, right? And I want to think about the third question of our breakout rooms, right? How does this particular film problematize the normal iterations of the enslavement films, right? And to me, there's a difference, right? There's a reason why I showed this film opposed to showing 12 Years a Slave or the other typical enslavement films that Hollywood loves so much. In this film, you get some type of vindication, right? You get a resolution at the end where the enslaved African people, they uprise, right? They have an uprising. They pick up their machetes and they organize themselves to liberate themselves. You see also implicitly within the film the role of African spirituality, and this is embodied in the character Nunu, right? And then one of the things that they say about Nunu was an Akan. She remembers Africa, right? Nunu was the conduit for those who were displaced in the Americas to be able to maintain their connection to the motherland, to back home, right? Not only was she the physical embodiment of that, but her practices, she spoke the language still, right? When the impregnant woman was hung on the tree and she didn't make it, it was Nunu and Nunu's prayers that allowed for the baby to breathe life, right? So there's a lot of subversion going on within the film that's very implicit, but also explicit. Another character within the film to pay close attention to is Shango. Give me 1 second, I want to show y'all something. Bear with me. So Nunu, right? Nunu was an Akan. The film is titled Sankofa, okay? Has anybody heard of this term Sankofa before? No? Okay. So Sankofa is an Akan word, a West African Ghanaian word. It's also symbolized in this image here. You'll see that it's a bird. The bird is looking backward, right? But it has this little egg in its mouth, so to speak. But if you notice, the position of the bird is moving forward, right? So while it's looking backward, it's moving forward. So this idea of Sankofa is to look to your past. Take the knowledge of your past, this little egg here, move it, apply it to your present as you move forward into your future, right? So this is this idea of Sankofa. And if you think about what happens in the film with the protagonist, she's transported back to her past, and what she experiences in her past shapes the way that she views her present when she gets back into the present moment. She changes, right? The woman who she was at the beginning of the movie while she was on the photo shoot is not the woman who she is at the end of the movie, right? So this idea, this notion of Sankofa, this West African Akan term. Again, Akan, Nunu, her character was Akan. So again, and I mentioned Shango. Shango is a Yoruba deity. Shango is the god of war. Here's an image of Shango here. And if you think about the character Shango in the film, he embodies Shango, the deity. If you notice, Shango in the film is wearing a red, has a red scarf tied around his head. Shango's color is red. The god Shango's color is red, right? The legend of Shango is when he gets called into battle, when you invoke the spirit of Shango on the battlefield, no one's surviving that battlefield. Shango will leave the whole battlefield dripping in blood, right? And if you notice, he has his machete with him. You think about the character in the film, he had his machete with him. Shango has no desire to listen to reason. Once he's invoked, all hell's broken loose, right? His brother Ogun, his older brother, he moves with a little bit more wisdom, right? But once you invoke Shango into this battlefield, it's a wrap. In the Haitian Revolution, right? They were invoking the name of Shango. Shango empowered them to do away with the French, right? So I point these things out to show that the film has a lot more nuance to it, right? This film does a lot more subversion than your typical film that deals with enslavement. The film shows how Christianity came in and creates a neurosis within the mind of Nunu's half-son, right? And you see how he's struggling with this Christianity and his natural desires, right? So the film offers a lot that, yeah, it's unsettling. Yeah, elements of the film is uncomfortable, but it's doing work at a implicit level that does a lot of undermining of the dominant narrative around enslavement. I don't even know if I could think about a film outside of Django, which is a satire where you see the enslaved Africans uprising and actually striking down their oppressors. And then also keep in mind, right, the film was produced in 1993. So takes the temporal context into play. This is before like the 12 Years a Slave film. This is before the Django film, right? This is more situated again in the early 90s, coming off of films like Roots that were done in the late 80s, right? So kind of keep in mind also the temporal aspect of the film, because really at the time that the film was produced, it was very, very revolutionary. There was nothing like it at the time. I'm just looking at the chat here. Yeah, I'm looking at what Ryan put, how she said the disconnect and the dissonance between Mona not wanting to be African, right? And then again, thinking about the work of Sankofa, the terminology of bringing that information forward into the way that you moved into the future, right? I'm sure if we spoke to this the Mona at the end of the movie, she would speak to her Africanness. She would have no problem with being called and referenced as an African. Okay, so if you're looking at the chat, Ryan is asking, I wonder what the vulture meant in the film. So I looked it up, and it really meant rebirth above all. Yes, because if you think about when do vultures circle? If you think about the work of a vulture, it circles when something's about to die, right? They know that there's a corpse on the ground and we're about to go get that corpse. That's how we'll eat. So the symbolism of the vulture is death is looming, right? The old Mona is going to be away with it. She's going to be birthed into this new iteration of herself by going through the experiences of her ancestors, of those who were enslaved. So I agree with y'all on the clinging your chest, if you will, against the trauma porn, right? But again, if you watch the movie a little bit closer, it's doing a lot more work than that. Shaka Zulu, yeah, that you know what? For a minute, it was on Amazon Prime. Is it Amazon Prime? The Amazon streaming channel, Shaka Zulu, but I don't know if it's still there. I'll look when I hop off today. But that's another good one that shows like African agency and just shows like African manhood in a way that's authentic. So I want to open it up. Any other questions, comments, or thoughts about the film?
Professor, I just want to add, me personally, I really appreciate classes and material like this. Like you know, like to me, this is priceless. You know what I mean? Because this, for a lot of us, these are the type of conversations, dialogue. This is the stuff that we really need to be reading. This is the stuff we really need to be watching, breaking down. Like I can't say it enough. Like this class has been so important for me as a, personally, like I said, I'm a father. I got a black son, you know what I'm saying? So I can't say it enough. Like this class has been so important. So I just want you to know, like this class, like I take it serious. My life, my life is on the line in these classrooms. I take it serious. So it just means much. So I just want you to know, just keep doing what you've been doing with this material. Like this space is, when people come in and bring in, some as personals with tonight, that lets you know what I'm saying, that this class is doing what it's intended to do. So
yeah, thank you, LJ. How old is your son, LJ?
My son is 5 years old, like yours. If I'm correct, your son 5, right?
Yeah, my son's 5. Yep. Same age.
My son is 5. He's named after me. And as you know, as a father yourself, he already has a personality. He talks. He's like a little person. You know what I'm saying? So he kind of understands, the concept of skin color. He talks about being brown and stuff. And so it's just important as he get older that, like, these are things you have to know. Like, we don't, our history is not slaves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That was a condition. Like, we're greater than that, and we always will be.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And so, again, these spaces are important. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I'm looking at the chat. Hey, Ryan, could you kind of articulate what you put in the chat? Because this is actually a very, very brilliant point. And if you're not in the space to do so, that's okay. Just let me know. Okay. So essentially what he's putting in the chat, right? Another thing that really was important was how she was an object of desire and beauty in the European photographer's lens and the disconnect she had at the beginning. Yeah, she was very much objectified, right? And kind of, she was an object of beauty because she was exotic, right? And that kind of goes to that fetish element of dealing with Black beauty and Black womenism. And really Black manhood as well. If you think about the Mandingo article, right? It's this idea of being fetished. And that's what was going on with Mona. It's up to me now because their models are a huge influence today, even the Black. Yeah, yep, absolutely. So I'm going to transition a little bit, and it's going to kind of piggyback off of what LJ was previously saying about the space that we occupy here. As I mentioned at the beginning of the semester, this is not my space. I may facilitate information in the space, but this is your space. And with it being your space, I like to do these check-ins to make sure that I'm doing what's needed to edify you intellectually, spiritually, and physically. Just like you have your midterm check-ins, right? And this is for me as your educator to be able to see how you're doing. I like to also take this opportunity for you as scholars to let me know how I'm doing. I do want to hear what's working well. That does make me feel good, and I like to hear that. But what I'm more interested in is what we could do better. Because for me, what we could do better and what could improve allows me to be better as an educator, right? I take this role as an educator extremely serious, right? I'm cultivating a pedagogy, like in what they call media res, in the moment, right? Like I'm doing my dissertation work right now in front of you. So your feedback is imperative, not only for my approach in the classroom, but also for my intellectual work as I'm doing my PhD, right? So I'm asking you to be brutally honest, right? My feelings won't be hurt. Your grade won't be ill-impacted by this. This is strictly for my improvement as an educator and for the improvement of your experience of being in this course as a scholar. So I'll ask you, please, like if there's anything that you feel that could be done better, speak on it. Like this is a perfect opportunity to let me know, one, how to improve personally, and then two, how we could improve this space that we've created together. So again, I'm open to hearing what's going well, but I'm more interested in what we can do better. So if anybody has any suggestions, I would love to hear them.
I got a suggestion.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, right? I think all of us know that, but it's a saying that behind every great man is a woman, right? So I would think or suggest, I don't know if there's literature or material that like that tells stories or examples of like Black women who have kind of like uplifted Black men to where they are. And like I said, I don't know, because I'm not gonna sit here like I'm a historian. I don't know, right? So I just think that'd be a nice little nuance to kind of consider. Kind of examples of, especially in an African masculinity class that does have a lot of sisters and women in the class, like maybe hearing the role they play in the ascension of great African masculinity or manhood. So
yeah, I think that's a really good point. Automatically hearing you, I'm thinking about Ida B. Wells, the work that she did through the anti-lynching campaign, which is really to support the lynching of Black men by and large, right? I'm also thinking about, I don't know if y'all seen this, but I'm going to post it online for you, because it's a brilliant conversation between James Baldwin and Nikki Giovanni. And there's just like some really, really brilliant dialogue about the dynamics of African manhood and African womanhood and how they interplay. So I'm going to locate that on YouTube, and I'll post that to our Google Classroom site. But I agree with you, LJ. I don't, when Dr. Bush gave me the class to take over, I wanted to keep the integrity of the class, so I didn't change anything. But I wanted to think of ways to incorporate the other side, because you're absolutely right. Like, I couldn't even be in front of y'all if it wasn't for my wife holding down certain spaces in the household, right? So I completely agree. And I wrote that down, and I'll start thinking of ways to apply that. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to, even if it's somebody in the department, maybe it's some, like you said, I've attended some of these zones, man, and it seems like Melina Abdul, for example, it'd be awesome if there's, the information that's there, that's evident, that in the ways in which Melina has been able to lift and bring out the best in some of the, some of the Black men are, in terms of masculinity, or even like in academic excellence, because I think that's also a feature of African or Black masculinity, being the intellectual, kind of being able to demonstrate that as well.
Yeah. And she has a really dope article on African womanism. And I believe Stacy Mitchell is teaching the African womanism course, and it's really centered around Dr. Abdullah's work. So I'll start thinking of ways to kind of incorporate that. Yeah, Sister Stacy's a beast, man. If you get a chance to take one of her classes, please do. She's phenomenal. Any other suggestions? Please, like, it's not the time to be shy. Like, let me know, because I'm asking for this.
I would like to, I don't know if you can control it, but I would like to hear from more of the classmates. Like, I feel like it's the same 10 of us. I'm not throwing no shade to nobody. If y'all feel uncomfortable, I'm very sorry, but I'm just saying, I would just like to hear other people's thought process of how they see and view things, because with my work, I'm around a lot of people, and I just sometimes just want to know their thought process and how they perceive us, or how they think of other races, especially this when you're in a Pan-African Studies class. I would like to hear why and what comes to your mind when you see films like this, and like just the honest, sincere, perception. Just in general, I just would like more participation from different people of all colors that do take this class. Yeah, but that's pretty much it.
Shit, me too. me too, right? Like, throw me in that bag also. But also I understand that it's a level of comfort, and also I understand that people might not want to say the wrong thing in the space of offending people. So it's two-pronged, right? We could ask for this as African people in this course, right? But that also means you got to be a little bit slow to get offended if somebody says something that's out of pocket, right? And we have to.
Of course. Yeah.
And I'm more saying this, Cherie, not to you, but to.
I understand. Right? So no.
No.
Like, because I'm cool with it. Like, I'm a very open-minded person, so I just like to, even if they're like absolutely off the wall type, thoughts and process, I just like to know like how people think, like, so I understand. Like I said, I don't think you can like control it, but of course comfortability is I'm pretty sure is the thing. But I just want to know for the people that don't really speak or feel like they can't say the right things. I just want to know like how you guys feel.
Absolutely. Tanaya and then Irasim.
Honestly, with this course, like I just love being in this space. The only thing, like I really truly wish these classes were longer. This is the only class that I've taken thus far. I'm in my first year of my college career, and this is the only class that I've had where I'm just like, damn, like it's over already. Like other classes, you know, I'm just like, okay, it's dragging on a bit today, but I've never had that experience in this course. I think it's, the comfortability that you create within your classroom is crucial to, just education, especially for Black people, for Black individuals, men and women. It's important that we have these spaces. So, first up, like I really just want to say how much I appreciate this classroom space. Also, I don't know, for my classmate who was just talking about, inclusion of other people's opinions. I think the best way to probably word something like that is, this is a space not only created for Black people, but other people that want to be more aware of the experience of Black people. So, where questions can be asked, it's better to, take heed and ask that question than to stay in the midst of, unknowing, because you're like, dang, like I don't want to make nobody mad today. I don't want somebody, because nowadays cancel culture is a thing. You're gonna think like, oh man, they gonna tell my address and gonna kick me out of school. So I understand the fear. But in this course, I just want like all of my classmates who aren't Black. I do want you guys to understand, like you're I'm already appreciative that you took heed and even taking a Pan African Studies course, because other people don't care. Some people just don't care. They're like, well, that's not my business. I'm not never going to have to experience that. But I think you guys really, pay attention to that old saying where it's talking about when they were attacking the Jews, I'm not Jewish, so I didn't say anything. And it boils all the way down to when they were attacking me, there was no one else left to even, speak up for me. So I appreciate you guys kind of being that barrier that says, well, I'm gonna speak up. I'm gonna learn something so I can teach somebody something. So truly, Professor, I just think you just gotta continue doing what you're doing. I do hope as I get older, I get to see, more of your work flourishing. I do, like, one day I'd be ecstatic if you were just like, okay, guys, I made a podcast, because I would tune in every day just just to listen to the podcast or even guest speak, because it's just, I don't know, it's an excellent space to have as a young Black woman.
I appreciate that, Tanaya. I'm working on the podcast. I'm working on it. And ideally, inshallah, once this dissertation is done, it will be turned into a book. Real quick, one thing to address as far as Tanaya's comments and really Cherie's comments, I'll make it real quick. This is a safe space, right? Like, I would advise, this is a better space for you to say something that may be out of pocket, because nobody here gonna whoop your ass. I may check you, right? I'm gonna do it with love, but juxtaposed to saying something on the street, that could get you fucked up, right? So at least here, take the opportunity of the safe space to kind of iron out some of the things that you may be grappling with, right? This is what this is for. So I completely echo the sentiments of Cherie and Tanaya. Irasemi?
I was just gonna say, I agree with you. It's hard to people to talk, to make people talk, because nowadays the time that we live in, like, very, you can say anything that if you open your mouth without thinking what you're saying, people can go against you. And I think that's what other students, like, it's hard to be in a position with African Americans, because we didn't go through that life. We didn't go through the same struggle, and I think that's it's hard to, but these readings and the movie was really good in reflection, people like telling the story and visualizing what they they went through, the African went through. So I think it's a really good reflection, all the readings and to get to know the life, the culture and all of that, the struggle and the resilience and all of that. I think it's good. The materials were good in doing that. So
Thank you, Araceli. And you know, one thing that may be interesting, just for those who aren't African, right? Yeah, you can think about the experience being different, but there's a lot of similarities and a lot of stuff that you feel that y'all as a culture, I'm speaking about the indigenous people, did not go through. In fact, you did, right? And again, I make the equation of the plantation experience being just the same as the experience that indigenous people went through on the missions, right? It's the same thing. So next we got Brandon. So let's give Brandon our attention. He looking sharp too. My man got his tie on. He got the all black going. What's going on?
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm at work today, so they got me in early. But I wanted to piggyback off of what Tanaya said about the class feeling like it's a bit short because we breeze through these conversations, and I love being able to go back, tell my dad and tell my friends everything that we talk about in this course. I would love for the class to be a lot longer, especially when I was going back and reviewing some of the other videos from other courses, as because I emailed you over the weekend, and so going back and reviewing everything, I would like to be more instead of a group A, group B. I would love to have that larger course and have it be longer. That way we can have more opinions, because then we have to go back and watch. But having more opinions and being able to communicate with one another and kind of piggyback off each other's ideas, I think that would be really beneficial to this course.
Okay. I'll take that into consideration, Brandon. I thought that the smaller courses or the smaller sessions would be better because it makes it more intimate, opposed to like having 40 people on the call. But I'll play with that a little bit more, because that you may.
Oh yeah, that definitely makes sense. Just having that smaller groups, but at the same time, I found it pretty cool when I was working on my midterm that I could go and review back to what other people are saying in the other groups.
Gotcha.
But then it got also like a little bit time consuming because you couldn't really pinpoint what was going on in what part of the class versus based on what your group was doing and what your group was saying and things of that sort. So
Gotcha. Thank you, Brandon. Next we have Mohammed.
So Professor, yeah, I just wanted to tell you two things. First of all is like, I'm really happy with the with the class scheduling and everything, and also with the group thing, because I feel like when you make it into groups, you're like more engaged in conversations because there are like less people, and the timing also works because I'm working sometimes and I might not have like some days off and stuff, so that comes into the way. And yeah, I really appreciate the way you engage your students in a conversation, because it in that way other people's point of view, and believe me, I'm from a different culture, so I don't know a lot of things, and before taking this class, so after taking it, I know a little more, of course, a lot more, I think, than what I used to know. I appreciate that. Secondly, I have a question actually for you as a student. It's like a lot of people that I talk with, they keep saying that history that we have today, or the advancement, whatever. So it's kind of a little biased, because the people who have been writing the history, they have been, I mean, the information has been like, a little bit changed, or it has been influenced. So so I feel like primary analysis, like, the primary sources of information, how, as a student, how do you access those primary sources, which can clarify in facts that are being said, that this history has been maybe a little suppressed or manipulated in ways? And how do you take that, and how do you know more?
That's a very good ass question. So there's kind of two ways to go about that. One is what they call like the archive, right? Cal State LA has an archive. that will give you like the oldest information, right? So typically, I don't want to say that. Oftentimes, they would argue that older is better. But for me, what's more useful than older is better is a cross-reference. So I got this information here, boop, boop, boop. Is there other readings that I could find that supports this information or argues against this information? And then is the information that's arguing against it, is it more of that than what supports? So to me, the cross-reference becomes important. And then who is telling the stories also becomes important. So that's the quick way that I'll answer that. And if you want, Muhammad, we could talk in a lot more detail because that's a really loaded question. Marquisha, you had your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say I really enjoyed the contemporary analysis, like bringing, it to today's kind of situation and topics and stuff. I really think that that's really good. And also, yeah, to piggyback off of LJ, it would be really cool to like incorporate a little bit more of like what I know it's a Black manhood, but it would be nice to hear like more like Black women uplifting men and what to do. And I'm going to be a mother of Black kids one day, so it'd be nice. And then yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, it is really short. I've really enjoyed this class too. I've learned so much. Like I said, like a lot of the other classmates, people of culture, like I want to just kind of say like, yeah, don't be afraid to speak up, because like we're kind of all in this together, especially majority of us are, people of culture and not just white students. So, the Asian attacks were happening, obviously the Trump era with Latinos and Latinas, like, we kind of all under the same umbrella. So yeah, I would just urge anybody to, speak up because at the end of the day, we all we got.
Well said. Thank you, Marquisha. Luis, why don't you close us out?
Yeah, I just want to say this is the first class I take where, everybody is very engaged, and including you, Professor. This is the first class I take where, including the professor, learning is new to them. And with every other class I've taken, the professor is always right. The points are very repetitive, and learning is dead to those professors. And this is one class I appreciate because of that. And also the readings, you chose very high level reading, so you're going above treating us like students and treating us like scholars. And I just want to say thanks for that.
Yeah, you're welcome, Luis. And really, you hit the nail on the head, right? Like that's why, if you notice, I don't even call y'all students. You're scholars. You're intellectuals. And that's why a lot of what I do and the way I do it is to position you and make you comfortable with PhD level stuff. So that way, if you don't go to get your PhD, a lot of the stuff that they do won't be unfamiliar to you. So I wrote down the notes. I'm going to incorporate as much as I can, which you all gave to me. I genuinely appreciate it. I want you all to enjoy the rest of your spring break. Like, have fun and rest, man. Like, try to get some time to rest, meditation, do something to kind of restore yourself. That's part of the spring equinox, right? Is to birth new things. And in order to birth new things, you have to rest. But still get your exercise, get your water, get that vitamin D. Enjoy that week off. If you need something, just hit me. If I'm a little slow at getting back at you, just know I'm working with that test, but I will get back to you. Other than that, you have a good rest of your spring break. Peace. All right, have a good one, Ryan.
Thank you, Professor.
All right, Jake, have a good one, man. All right,
You
Sharif.
too.
Thank you, Professor.
Marquis, have a good one. All right, Luisa, have a good one. No, you're welcome, Albert. Have a good one, man. Yeah, you have any questions, Albert, or are you good?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. All right.
I enjoy listening to you.
I appreciate you, Albert. Have a good spring break, man.
You too.
All right. Peace.